It became
Are you left-handed?
It became a signature.
Are you left-handed?
Yeah.
That's
But
Lisa, I'm just going to tell you when we're 8 minutes in, and then I'll just give you the 3 minutes.
right.
So I've got it.
Oh, very good. I won't miss that. Okay, look, man, there's just so much to talk about, obviously. So you don't mind sitting here for the next 3 or 4 hours?
I really don't, actually.
Do you ever
I'm
get
quite
sick of answering all these questions?
No, because half the time, especially with the new record, it's only now I'm able to talk about it. Because, if someone says, well, why did you do that? I say, I don't know. I've got to come up with an answer why I did it. And most of the time, it's just, it happened, And then you've got to sound intelligent and sort of have a reason for why you did this. So sometimes you find out things about the record as you talk about it.
What'd you find out? I'm assuming we're all...
Okay, I'm on the wide shot right now.
Okay. What did you find out about yourself with Testify, which seems, as a listener, so optimistic?
Well, it is. That's the way I feel. I must admit, I'm very pessimistic about things out there on the street. But in terms of my life, I'm very optimistic. Little things, I guess it's a period in your life when you arrive at a certain point when you think, you just start to enjoy what you're at as opposed to looking around the corner and seeing what might be there and looking back and enjoying what was there. I'm here now enjoying what I'm doing.
But you're such an open book. Don't you ever get gun shy? The press wasn't so kind at periods of your life.
No, it's you see, the thing is that my solo career started off by accident because I went through a divorce. I started writing songs that weren't therapeutical, actually, weren't cathartic. I just started writing songs to take my mind off what else was going on in my life. And I just bought some equipment, so I was kind of half trying to make sure that I could control that, get that working. Kind of half enjoying myself with the songs that were obviously, some of them were just how I felt about what was going on in my life. Some of them were angry, some of them were sad, some of them were cynical. And that album actually sees me coming out of that misery, in a way, to some of the happier stuff.
Is that In the Air Tonight? What does that mean?
Well, it doesn't mean anything. All of those songs, and this is kind of what I'm getting at with the being embarrassed about the openness of the kind of what they're about. In the Air was just spontaneous. I'd written the chords and I had it on tape, and I thought, okay, well, like with Genesis, we used to do the vocals last. With my thing here, I'm going to put the vocals on straight away so that everything else fits in with it. So I started singing, I can feel it coming in the air. I didn't think about wow, what's happening here. I just sang all those lyrics spontaneously. I've never done that ever since. But all those lyrics were not written down, they weren't thought about. I just sang, and that's what came out. So that shows you what state of mind I was in.
Wow, but it became an anthem. Did it even surprise you?
And now the story's going around about it, about what it was about. And of course, it is the most ironical thing is that there is no story, because I know that it just came out. So it's purely abstract thought.
I didn't think Phil Collins did anything by accident.
Everything I do is by accident. and there's one side of what side of what the press and the media kind of has, this Mr. Perfectionist, this Mr. Professional, polished perfectionist. This is actually the opposite of what I am. Everything on Testify, the vocals you hear are me in my little studio at home, which is a room probably this size, with just me, nobody else, me singing into a microphone, making up those words that you're hearing there and then. Some of those vocals, like Wake Up Call, I sang.
Well, what was your wake-up call? Because as I listened to that song, and it's one of those songs that right away you get it, it's a tune that sticks in your head, but it makes you wonder, what's your wake-up call?
Well, melodically, I am pretty good at writing things that feel familiar, or they kind of feel comfortable to you melodically. I have to own up that. My grounding is the Beatles, right? And when you hear those songs, when I heard those songs when I was growing up, they all sounded like I knew them already. There was nothing that was a surprise. It was just fantastic. But it wasn't a surprise, you know. Yeah, you kind of feel like, of course, that's fantastic. Not like, oh my God, I've never heard that before. It was like, yeah, I know that. You know, I want to hold your hand. Of course.
And then, I mean, for you to have felt that way and then to have your own sort of brush with the Beatles.
Well, yeah, but let me just say that what I was saying was the fact that it's that kind of the melodic thing comes from that place. Because I don't want to make it sound like I'm kind of putting myself on any kind of pedestal here. But when you said that the wake-up call sounded kind of straight away, you were familiar with it. It's that kind of melody that you feel like you know straight away. And, you know, that's what I was getting at, really. I mean, and if we want to get back into the lyrics, it's because I think we should not go through our life, which some of us do, kind of sleepwalking, because we're kind of, you know, yeah, got to go to work, got to get up, got to go back, you know, to go to bed, you know. And it's like there's sometimes you've got to feel that the things are passing us by, and if we don't actually stop and enjoy them, they'll be gone, or we'll be gone. And these people, he's asleep, wake him up, he's going to miss it, you know, that kind of thing.
Did you have an epiphany ever?
No, I don't really think so, but on the other hand, this was the first song on this record, kind of, that became a song. I had the little bit, started working on the computer, it became a song. Lots of silly accidents, like the introduction was an accident of that song. I actually copied and pasted a bit over here to the wrong place, and when I started playing it, everything was playing the wrong instrument. That's the introduction. I thought, well, I would never have arranged that. That's fantastic, so I keep that. But the song was kind of so much like a breath of fresh air to me because of the way I was working. It seemed to me the lyrics, which were improvised, you know, like most of these words are. Can't you feel it happening? It's like there's electricity in the air. Like, this is fantastic. Wake up, wake up. Everybody got to enjoy this. Am I the only one that's listening? It was really kind of, I felt like that, you know, and then that kind of feeling followed through on other songs to lesser or greater extent. But that was, to me, the flagship of the record, which is why it's the first track.
Well, in Testify, though, there's that one line that's pretty haunting as well, something about every heart
that's ever been broken knows these words should be spoken.
Were you always that way in real life, in a relationship, up front and I love you, boom, to a person?
Well, yeah, maybe not as much as I should have been, but certainly as you get older, you realize how important that is. I mean, I say to my kids every time I put the phone down, or every time I say goodbye to them, I always say, the last thing I say is I love you, and the last thing they say to me is I love you, because they know that's how I feel. They know that that's what they realize the importance of it. And my son, you know, I mean, it's fantastic. Simon, I always used to say to him, look both ways, Simon, when you cross the road. You know.
Wise advice.
Look both ways, and I love you. And now he says to me, and he's 26, it's all sunk in. He says, love you, Dad. And that's really the best thing you could say. And so when I say, you know, if you have been in that position, and even if you've been in the position where I have been, as you are in the driving seat. I've been in both positions with both my first and second marriages. And I know that, you know, you really got to be honest, and you've got to really speak your mind, and really, if your heart's been broken, then you know that you have to say these things. All these things I'm saying about testifying my love for you and asking you to testify your love for me, all these things should be said, because life is too short.
Do you feel then that you sort of matured, obviously you matured in love, and that follows through with parenting as well? Because here you are traveling with an 18-month-old baby boy, and you've got a
13-year-old, I have a 26, and I have a 30-year-old. Jolie's 30, Simon's 26.
Who, by the way, Canadians are in love with your daughter. You know that from Cold Squad.
It's so nice to come here and people say, hey, Jolie said hi. Well, I love what she does.
She's got the goods on you. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so proud of her. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, it's really, you imagine how it feels, you know, to come into a town where they know your kids. I just left Montreal, and people were saying, we had Simon through here a couple of years ago with his album. What a nice boy, you know? It's like you think, you're proud to be their father, you know?
Is it weird for you knowing that you probably won't be moving through this country or any country touring this new album?
Yeah, it's a little sad, you know. I mean, every time I go to a place and they say that kind of thing, I think, well, maybe I should include Toronto on the next time I do a theatrical thing. You know, then
Please do.
I said the same thing in Montreal yesterday. In Madrid, I had the same thing like a couple of weeks ago. No, in the big picture, nowadays, if you do a tour, you're stuck with 2 years because the world is a huge place. In though it's all accessible, but it's 2 years to go around it properly, and you can now play South America and Asia and Far East and Russia and China. You can play everywhere if you want to, and the tendency is that as soon as it's up and running, well, they'd love it if you go to Australia. Boy, it sounds good. People love it, and then suddenly you look back and it's 2 years of your life, and I don't want to do that.
But also, it's not just necessarily that you don't want to. Now, with the hearing impairment, is it something you can't do or not?
Well, I could do it, and maybe I'd get through 2 years and it wouldn't have been a problem. But the doctor said to me, I wouldn't do it. You may have a problem. You may get to the point where it's uncomfortable. And I have been in situations. I mean, I've done live shows in the last couple of months. Some in clubs, some in theatres, some in like huge arenas.
Well, I saw you at Buckingham Palace do the
Well, that.
And didn't they ask you? Didn't somebody ask you?
Queen asked me.
And you felt what? It was.
Well,
just
this is what I was just about to say. I mean, Queen asked me to sing because everyone was singing with everybody else, and Roger and Brian are great friends of mine, and they said, "Do you want to come and sing 'We Are the Champions'?" And I said, "Sure, yeah." So I went to their rehearsal place, put my little in-ear monitors in, and had monitors, so I was fully covered for level. I could hear myself, until the band came in, and the band were incredibly loud. I've been down, I never lose. I couldn't hear myself. And this ear was going, and I said, wait a sec, I can't do this. And I got somebody else to do it. But it was a big eye-opener for me because I was kind of thinking when the doctor said to me, uncontrolled environment. I thought, well, my guys are pretty good. They don't ever very rarely have feedback. But this was something that could happen at any time, and it could damage this one more, or it could damage this. And I just don't really want to take that chance. I'm sure the fans don't really would, in the cold light of day, they say, well, it's not worth it, But nevertheless, in my future plans, I would always include performing in some shape or form. And I was going to, next year, do like a week in London in a theatre, a week in Paris in a theatre, a week in New York in a theatre. And maybe I hadn't thought more than that, but it would have been like weeks in the major places that have been kind to me, of which obviously Eastern Canada would have been in there. So I can't do that now because I've got these Disney deadlines to make with the musical and also finishing this film. But it's going to be pretty high on my list of priorities to do that, because I've realized going around the country, going around North America and in Europe, that people really don't want me to stop. And I actually did, before I did that, I thought people didn't really care.
So you packed all those houses.
Yeah, I kind of, I felt that, judging by the record sales, I mean, of course Tarzan did well, but then that's a Disney film. It's kind of different from your own album. But when I did Both Sides, which is my most personal and best record, and everyone kind of didn't go for it, I thought, maybe it's all over. Maybe that's fair enough. I had a huge success, and it's like I had 3 hours. If everybody has 15 minutes, I had a good 3 hours, of fame. And it's okay. Philosophically adjusted, we take a little detour. We do this. We do more grown-up things outside the marketplace, like the big band, like films and stuff, which is cool. I really enjoy doing that. I really am so excited by doing the scoring, to picture. And this album's only out because I found that the songs irresistible. I wanted to share them with people.
Tell me more about, though, the mindset of writing for animation or for an album. Is it a different place to picture who's going to be singing those words?
Well, obviously your own thing, you can do anything you want. No one says, management sometimes say, well, I don't know, but that's because Tony, he's been my manager for 30 years, he says, do you think that vocal performance is right? And I say, yeah. Or I'll say, I was thinking the same thing too. So I'll do it, so I take advice on board occasionally, but usually it's my thing. Rob Cavallo produced this album. I mustn't underestimate his contribution, because he helped me realize it, because he's got 2 ears, I've only got 1.5. But he really helped me finish the thing. I love him dearly for that, because he just saw what I wanted to do, and he was like me finishing it. He just was like my brother doing it. But in films, you're totally in a committee, in a team, and you have to, and as has happened, the example is You'll Be in My Heart. when I first played that to Chris Montan, who was the president of the music division, he got Elton to do Lion King, he got Sting to do this, he got me to do that. And when I played him You'll Be in My Heart over the phone, which is a lot how we do a lot of our work, what do you think? At the end he said, well, the chorus is spectacular, he said, but the verse, I don't think the verse is good enough yet. I said, wow, okay.
Can you accept criticism like that?
Well, no, that was what was fantastic, because he's a musician, and I knew I was part of a team. Some people wouldn't. That's why I give you that as an example. Some people would say, excuse me, you know. But I just sort of said, cool, okay. Well, take this. And I went away and wrote something else, and of course that became the song.
And won an Oscar.
Yeah, so he was probably right.
What was that like for you, to be there on the red carpet, to go up and get the statue?
Well, being on the red carpet, because I didn't think I was going to get it. I mean, I know this sort of sounds like bullshit, but I really didn't think I was going to get it. I thought that Randy Newman was going to get it, because he'd been up quite a few times, 13 times. I thought, this is going to be Randy's time, you know. Fortunately, it was his time last year.
That's right.
So thank God for that, you know. But I thought, he's going to get it. If there's justice, he's going to get it. 'Cause it's such a beautiful song. When somebody loved me. And then there's Diane Warren over there. She's been up 5 or 6 times. I've been up a couple of times, and it's not my time, you know. And these things are your time. And so I was having a good time. You know, I was going to sing my song, and people would have liked it probably, but I did the red carpet. Yep, sure, I was very happy. I wasn't nervous. Then we went up to sing, and that was great. The song, you know, song sounded nice, just like the Unplugged. And I was standing next to Randy Newman, and Cher went out there, and she opened the envelope and said, the Oscar goes to you. And I thought, my God. It's like, you know, the whole time and I was next to Randy Newman, all I could do was hug him. I felt sorry, because he said I was going to get it. And I said, come on, man, you deserve this. And, so he was the first person I hugged. And then, but I wasn't with my family, because like Oriane was out there, Jodie was out there, and Lily was out there. Simon couldn't make it. You know?
Out in the audience, though.
Yeah, they were out in the audience. And that's a really lovely moment when you sort of are with them, if you get something like that. And all I could think of was, I could see them standing up going, yes, Jolie, you know.
You got to hug Randy Newman, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that bad. But anyway, within half an hour of you know, I mean, I was very emotional, because I really didn't think this was going to come my way. As I said, I thought that was all over.
So the emotion is the real deal then?
Oh, yeah.
When you're standing.
I really got, you know, choked up about it, because my family really believed I was going to get it, and I really didn't. But was so thrilled when I did. I couldn't believe it. It was the perfect end to the journey, because the Tarzan was fantastic for me to do. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
Did it give you the acting bug again? Being around all those actors? Any more Artful Dodger in you somewhere?
Yeah, it's so weird to stand up there and you're looking down. There's Warren Beatty, there's Jack Nicholson, and you think. And I did say, you know, thanks guys for making films, because this is fantastic to be here. But not really, not for the acting. I mean, at some point I'll probably do some more, you know. But for me, I'm so fortunate that there's kind of it's like bobbing in the ocean. There's things that come to the surface, you know. Music is really at the top thing. You know, I mean, I'm doing some very interesting things with Disney, with scoring and writing for, you know, the musical. And, you know, then there's my record. I can actually do what I want to do without worrying about what happens. If something happens, that's wonderful. But really, I'm just doing what I want to do. And then maybe, you know, acting or something will come up, and I'll get a chance to do some more acting. I mean,
do you ever remember any of those scenes from Oliver when you were, what were you, 14 or something?
14, yeah.
In the West End?
Oh, I loved it. I would never forget that. You know, I remember it. My voice broke when I was on stage in Oliver. You know, I went on stage and said, consider yourself. My God, what's happening?
So they gave you the role of Fagin.
Well, I went back as an adult part later, yeah. But, you know, it's like that no one tells you, you know, one day your voice will break and it'll be like this, you know, in front of 1,000 people.
Frightening.
Anyway.
Don't you miss the West End or London, living in that city?
I don't miss London. London is a bit of a menacing city now. I went back, and I do go back there, obviously. I played with a band who were my heroes when I was a teenager, The Action, they were called, like a mod band. And they're still going, and they were just reformed. And I got the chance to play with my heroes, because I funded a video, this reunion concert they did. I gave them the money to do it. And I remember leaving the club. I'd never been in the West End on a Friday night for a long, long time. And I came out of the club, and it was like Blade Runner. It was really scary, boy. You know, I just couldn't wait to get back to the hotel. And I live in Geneva, you know, which is kind of, you know, there's nobody on the street at 11 o'clock. But that's fine, because I get the craziness when I do this kind of thing. But No, I just think that London has kind of got a, if only people realised how aggressive they are. But they take it for granted, you know, they don't realise that they're being like that. If they actually stood back and saw what London used to be like, even 15 years ago, 10 years ago. I mean, I'm not talking about going back to the Ealing comedies where there's about 4 cars on the street, but, just in Switzerland, people go into a restaurant and they say, bonsoir, monsieur, dame, bonsoir. Now, if you say that in a lift in it's like Los Angeles or New York, people, what do you want? It's just that there's a civility, a politeness, and a niceness to each other. And that's the way it could be. Doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be the way it is. It could be that way if we all wanted it that way. But people are kind of a little bit too me center, and they don't think about it. It's just like where they want to get to and what they want to do. I think there's a few lessons could be learned, to be honest.
You could teach a few people a few lessons on philanthropy, but what's your philosophy on giving so much away?
Well, I'm in a position that, it's fortunate. It's easy to say, well, he gives a lot away because he's got a lot. I have got a lot. I'm very, very well off, and I'm embarrassed by it because all I do is enjoy myself, and I have a great time, and I've worked hard doing what I want to do, But it is what I want to do, and that's a big difference. Some people work hard and can't wait to get home at night.
What's splurging for you?
Every year we go on a holiday on a boat. The last 3 years. We went on our honeymoon was the first time, actually, and we've been on it 3 times since. And that's, we charter a boat in the Mediterranean, which is big enough for 4 or 5 couples. And we just go, me and my wife and my son, and last year we took Lily with us. And we just do that. And I think, okay, we're going to go on a holiday, and it doesn't matter what it costs. Because the rest of the time I work, so, And I don't really, I drive a Range Rover. I don't have a Ferrari, and I don't have expensive tastes, if you like.
It almost all comes full circle, though. Wasn't it a boat club where you first acted on a stage?
That's right, yeah. And I'm honorary president of that boat club now.
Still?
Yeah, well, that was for life, really. I mean, my dad and mum were original members of it. My uncles that gave me the first drum kit, they were also original members. So and my brother and sister were cadets, like I was. It was a big family. All my family were involved in that boat club, and so they kind of made me honorary president about 10, 12 years ago. And that's great for me because my dad sort of was very happy probably. But
so you're not sorry you didn't take up the family business in a lifetime of insurance.
Boy, yeah. I mean, my brother did it. He's a cartoonist. My brother. He's a little older than a lot older, 61. But I mean, he's been a cartoonist all his life. But he did go to the office for a couple of years and managed to escape. My sister, who used to be an ice skater, professional ice skater, she's now a theatrical agent in the same office as my mum, who's 89 and still works. She's there, but she used to be a professional ice skater, but she went into the office. I was the only one that didn't. And my dad didn't like, as I mentioned before, my dad hated me drumming, or going professional anyway.
He liked you as an actor, though, didn't he?
Yes, he loved me being an actor. But I found out a year ago, my brother told me, he said, "Do you realise that Dad didn't love The Office? He didn't like The Office." And I thought he loved it. He did it for 40 years. Why would anybody do that for 40 years? He said, well, he only did it because his father made him do it. And my dad ran away to sea before he met my mum. He ran away to sea for the romantic life on the sea. And his dad brought him back and put him in the office and made him stay in the office. And suddenly I saw this very starched man that was my dad. Suddenly I saw him as this hopeless romantic that was manacled to this job for 40 years. So when I didn't go, I can see a little bit of, not jealousy, but kind of envy. He's going to be able to do exactly what he wants. That's just like I wanted to do, and I wasn't able to. And so there's a song on the record which I think is more to do with him than I thought when I wrote it, which is "It's Not Too Late," which is gently rolling Father Time is calling to him now, and he just looks out to sea, but he hasn't realised all his dreams. Until he realises all his dreams, he's not going to open the door and let death come and take you. It's just one of those things where I just think maybe that's what it was about, because a lot of these things are in there and they come out if the music triggers it, And it's funny, after 50 years, sort of seeing your dad in something, it's a totally different light.
Absolutely.
I feel so sympathetic to him now, whereas before it was like, you know, I kind of felt like I escaped, whereas he really would love me to have gone into the office. But I think in a way it was a little bit of, damn it, you made it, well done, have a good time.
You made it into a band
Enjoy
called
yourself.
Genesis. That's that story of how you auditioned that day at Peter Gabriel's house is like a scene from the film The Commitments.
Yeah.
Is that a vivid memory for you,
Yeah,
showing
it is.
up there?
Well, first of all, when I got there with Ronnie, my mate Ronnie, who plays in my band now, we've known each other since we were teenagers, but when we arrived, Peter Gabriel came up, and first of all, you know, everyone was dressed, and you know, I mean, Mike Rutherford disclaims this, but he did have a smoking jacket on. He had a kind of a Noel Coward kind of, you know, paisley jacket with carpet slippers, and there was a grand piano on the terrace, and I looked at this, and I'm from, you know, real middle class. This was
the lad from Hounslow, isn't it?
Yeah, this was stockbroker belt. But I mean, I was in a semi-detached house, you know. Swimming pool was down the road in municipal baths, you know. And when Peter said to me, "Do you want to have a swim because you're early?" I said, "Well, you mean go to the municipal baths?" And he said, "No, there's one in the garden." I said, "Oh my God, this is a bit all right, isn't it?" You know. And so it was a different kind of world, really, for me. But yes, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Pretty good world.
It was. You know, then when I got the job, it was actually on Jodie's birthday, August the 8th, 1970. They called me up and said I got the job.
And the rest is history. I want to finish because I know we're running out of time, but with the song Don't Get Me Started, because as I listen to it, I think, is this Phil Collins commenting on the world events following September 11th?
Well, there's 3 verses, and each verse is about a different aspect. The 3rd verse is about September the 11th. I mean,
what is it? One God.
Well, people. I mean, there's
God's
one God
faith,
against another. You know, while the river of tears run by. I mean, it's these people that just don't. Well, you can't fight someone that doesn't mind dying for what they believe in. You know, so there's no threat. So, and that is the real scary stuff. I think because I don't see any way out, because you have Bush. I love Colin Powell. I think he's a wonderful politician, I have to say. But you have the Bush administration,
who is backing Bush.
Yeah, you have those guys that are sort of. Well, Blair's in Bush's pocket, to be honest. You know, he wants to be with the big guys. You know, so I mean, but there's Bush, basically, who's in charge of the most powerful country in the world. You know, and he's not going to back down because he'll appear weak. If he appears weak, he will be out. If he's out, he's failed. Because you know, his personal failure. You know, forget about what's good for the country, and these guys don't care. You know, the terrorists, we'll call them. They don't care because they obviously will do anything, and you almost feel like if only someone bigger than all of them would come down and say, "Excuse me, guys, let's talk about this," because what's going to happen? You know, the only end result of this is we're all going to end up fried. You know.
Well, I hope they hear your song. It's a powerful message. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. I could absolutely go on, but... So what were you in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
I was one of the kids at the end.
Were you? Now I've got to borrow my niece's copy of it.
No, but you know what? I can see this now, but I had this boil on the side of my head, right?
In the film.
Well, no, I mean, I was only one of the hundreds of kids, but I had